Welcome to this live edition of Rev Talk. Here's your host and author, Shane, better known to many as simply the Black Swan.
All right, welcome to the show. We have some good stuff for you today. I just wanted to say a quick hi to Brother Derek. How are you doing?
Doing good. Doing very good.
Awesome. So we're going to be talking a little bit about Israel, AI, prophecy, that kind of stuff. But I wanted to kind of start the show by showing something that I found. Let me see if I could find it real quick here. I was trying to queue it up, but I ran out of time. Here it is right here. Okay. Let's see if I can queue up this bad boy. Okay. So what are we looking at here? This is about 5 minutes away from my house. This thing is a TPS 77. Can you see it on your right-hand side there a little bit? Like it looks like a triangle or a rectangle. I'll just show it to you. Like there's a white box right in the center, and to the right of it is actually a radar, which is kind of interesting. So this radar is what they're using for the G7 summit that's about an hour, maybe tops, away from me. So they put this radar on top of the tallest place in Cochrane, which is where I live, to detect missiles from coming in. They just placed it there. Missiles or drones. So, and it has a 400-kilometer radius. Now, you Americans might not know what that is or what the radius is. So think of it as about 290 miles in either direction. That's how far out this thing can see. So I drove up there with my wife last night because I could see it from my house with my binoculars. I'm like, hey, look at that thing spinning. So let's go check it out. So we drove, and there was a police car. As soon as I got out of my vehicle and walked towards it to film it, she got out of her car to talk to me. So this is just, I only got about 30 seconds, and I'll explain why. But we'll just hit play here.
Yeah, apparently that's one of the biggest ones they have, so.
Wow.
Yeah. When I learned I was doing this radar security, I'm like, didn't know what to expect.
Yeah, that's cool. So you just hang out here for your whole shift, and then someone relieves you and
Yes.
whatever, and
Yeah, there's two of us here, but he's not here right now, but.
yeah, that's cool. Boring, but cool.
Yeah, boring, but.
So it's interesting because, again, this little radar thing, this is what detects missiles from coming in to Kananaskis country. So they've been prepping for months to try and make sure that the delegates that are coming in, including Trump, will be here. Like this is about a week or so away. And they'll be here. I think it's actually a week on Monday. I think it's like for 3 days or something. But they've been planning this stuff for months. And you're going to be seeing, we're going to be seeing fighter jets go above us, all kinds of stuff. Because this happened a few years ago, probably like 10 years ago when the last time they had it. But this time it's a bigger deal because we also have, we have a new prime minister, and he invited, I think it's the PM of India, and we haven't been on the best of speaking terms. Something happened. I think one of our PMs got assassinated by someone from India. It's kind of the rumorville. Someone got assassinated, and so we were, I guess, trying to tighten up the ship and figure out who did it and all this kind of stuff. And then India got offended at us. And so we were at odds against each other. And that was when Trudeau was around. So I think Carney, our new prime minister, sent out an olive branch to say, look, you're welcome to come to the summit. But he is at a high risk because there are people that don't like the PM for India. Like he's got enemies. And we have enemies within Canada because some of our, like, again, one of our politicians, I guess, got assassinated. So this could seem like nothing, but you also have Trump mixed into it as well, and some of the other political leaders. They don't want any boo-boos. They don't want any accidents or mishaps, because this is stuff that, to me, could trigger World War III. This is black swan, fertile soil, if you will. This is when you say it can't happen, nothing can happen out of this. This is where a black swan grows. It's in this type of scenario where it's peace, peace, peace. It's a peace summit, all this kind of stuff. Everything centered around this is peaceful. So if you have something, a misunderstanding, somebody has a missile, a rocket launcher on their shoulder and launches it and says they're India, or says that they're Russia or Ukraine or Canada or whatever, you can have one of these false flag scenarios creep in, and then all of a sudden nobody trusts anybody. And we're already on rocky soil with America. Like, Trump doesn't trust us right now. So imagine somebody taking a pot shot at him on our turf. Who's he going to blame? It's us. So
Right.
there's a lot here, and we're not known for our defense. We're not. I think we have one sub, and it's at West Edmonton Mall. We probably have a bunch of baby seals with some kind of radar strapped around them for GPS, and that's about it, around the ocean somewhere. And then we have the snowbirds, but we're just kind of designed for aerial kind of shows. We're not designed for fighting each other and all kinds of stuff. So we're at a little bit of a disadvantage here. So that's a lot to protect the president, to protect the Indian prime minister, to protect ours as well. Are you kidding me? Out in the middle of nowhere? This is a breeding ground for black swans. What are your thoughts behind that kind of thing?
Well, you do have Dudley Do right up there, right? I used to watch that cartoon as a kid. Remember the Royal Canadian Mounties? He seems, but I hear what you're saying, and I don't know. I mean, this whole thing, I think there's so much instability right now in the government and in the world that you're right, that the ground is fertile for a black swan event. I mean, just what we saw this past week in the news surrounding Trump has really, really concerned me. Both the revelation that he has contracted with, I think the company's name is Palaltier or something like that. It's a company that is basically going to compile a database on every single American. Now that's not good. That's not good at all. Why would Trump have his hands in this? Why would he be signing an executive order with a company to come up with a database? And I think, was it Peter Thiel that's running Palantir or whatever? I don't know. Anyway, he was the one that came up with databases, basically the kill lists in Gaza too. So, this is not a good development. The other thing that I find really fascinating with Trump is this whole feud between him and Elon Musk. How all of a sudden, Elon Musk has turned on Trump. I kind of find it fascinating for a couple of reasons. Number one, when he came out with the revelation that the reason that the Epstein files haven't been released is because Trump is on it. I really honestly don't believe that for a minute. And here's the reason why. Number one, Elon, if you knew that in advance, if this was something that you've known for quite some time, why would you have supported Trump? If you knew that Trump was somehow on this, this list, why would you have supported him in the beginning? That incriminates you as much as anybody else. But number two, if Trump was in fact on these Epstein files on the list, don't you think when Joe Biden was in control, when he was in the reins of power in his government, if they knew that Trump was on that list, don't you think they would have released that information prior to the election to take him out of the running for the election? So I don't really believe he's on that list. But I find the feud fascinating because it's almost as if Elon finally had his first taste of the deep state and the swamp and what us as conservative Republicans have been sick of for so many years. I mean, I was part of the Tea Party years ago when the Tea Party formed, and we are always trying to push the conservatives, who are the Republicans, who are the more conservative of the two parties. We're always trying to push them to actually live up to the promises that they give us, and they're always constantly disappointing us. With Trump's first term, it was that we wanted to get rid of Obamacare. Did they get rid of Obamacare? Of course not. With this term, we want a little fiscal responsibility because we're just in debt, and we're drowning in debt as a country. Now, this big beautiful bill basically is going to hold us at ransom because basically the thing with the big beautiful bill, if they don't pass it, all of our taxes are going to go up, and everybody knows we're not going to be able to handle that. So people are willing to kind of hold their nose and put up with what's in the rest of this bill. But the rest of the bill is garbage, to be honest with you. It's not really giving tax cuts. It's stabilizing the tax rate as it is right now. The only people that will really benefit are those on Social Security, those that are getting tips. Obviously, that's going to benefit them. But for the rest of us, it's really not going to benefit us much, other than our taxes won't go up. It's got things for, where the states cannot regulate their own AI. Again, that's another horrible development. But the thing that I think that's really fascinating about this whole feud between Elon and Trump, and it looks like Shane's kind of bopping in and out. I hope he's not having technical difficulties, because I really want to hear his thoughts on this. We all kind of, like we talk about, we've got these little penny jars up on the shelf, talking about like who we think might be the Antichrist. And like, when somebody kind of fits that qualification, you drop a couple pennies in the jar and it's like, okay, this one's got more pennies in it than that one. And we've talked about Trump in the past and some of the, Antichrist type things that he does. But we've also said we don't necessarily think he is the Antichrist. But, I've often speculated he could be one of the 10 kings. And with all this stuff going down with Elon, and again, I don't know. I have no idea. I'm not going to, put my neck on the line and say that Elon is the Antichrist. But could Trump be one of the 3 kings that the Antichrist takes down? Could we be witnessing the rising of the Antichrist figure taking down the first of 3 kings in Trump? That's just something that I think is interesting to consider. Again, not that I'm saying it is the case, not that I'm putting all my eggs in that basket. I just think it's interesting to consider. But the bottom line is with all of this, just like Shane opened up talking about, we are in such unstable time. We all hoped when Trump was elected, we knew what choice we had between Kamala and between Trump. We had all hoped that Trump would at least bring some stability back to the country. But we're in times that are as unstable as any. One more thing to add into the mix. I was talking with Brother Josh earlier today on the phone, and we were just talking about everything that's going down in California right now and how there seems to be this conflict between the United States, the federal government, and the state of California. And I just thought, and when I heard about that, I thought, isn't that interesting that a few months back, that movie Civil War came out, and the states that had seceded from the Union were what? They were Texas and they were California. And I remember watching that movie thinking, oh, well, it makes all the sense in the world that Texas would secede from the Union. I mean, they've been talking about that for years, but California, really? Why would California secede? And now we see all this conflict, and it just makes me wonder, is this pre-predictive programming? Are we going to start seeing the proverbial black swan come about in the next few days?
Yeah, it's interesting. Can you hear me all right?
You sound a little distant. I can hear you, but you sound very quiet and a little distant.
Something happened with my mic. For some reason, it just went kapooey.
Uh-oh.
So what I might do is I might exit out and then try coming back in if you're cool.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'm not sure if you could live up to your name, the long-winded preacher.
I got a lot of wind in me. I can keep on going.
All right. I like where you're going. I like what you're talking about. I just want to make sure that my audio is a little bit better. So I'm going to exit, and then I'm going to come back.
You go right ahead. I'll keep it rolling while you're out. So, yeah, these are our thoughts. We are in unstable times, and anybody that thinks that things are going to just continue going on, the way that they've always been. I had another thought that came to my mind today, something else that the Lord laid on my mind. And I think I'm going to explore this a little bit while Shane is getting his technical issues worked out. Hopefully he can hear in the background, because I'm sure he'll want to talk about this. But and yes, I see you, Stephanie McCullough. You're right there with me, so I see you. Let's see if I'm hearing echo, so that wasn't working. Whatever Shane was doing wasn't working. But the other thought I had was this. I've talked about this for quite a while, that what is the devil's game plan? What's his end game? Okay, I've talked about this for a while, that his end game has always been to destroy the Jews, to be anti-Semitic, because what? He knows that Jesus basically locked himself up in heaven. He can come in the rapture at any time, but the second coming is predicated on the Jews calling out, "Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord." So I've said for a long time that is Satan's endgame. Go ahead, say something, Shane. Let's see if we can hear
Testing.
you.
1, 2,
Yep, you
3.
sound
Testing.
great. Sound great
Awesome.
again.
Perfect.
So what I was kind of filling a little space with while you were out working on your technical issues was I started saying to everybody, another thought that came to me today, to anybody that thinks that this rubber band is just going to be indefinitely stretched out, that God's just going to keep on showing grace, showing grace, showing grace. I've talked about many times how what the devil's end game is to try to prevent the salvation of the Jewish people, because Jesus said that they have to call upon him for salvation. Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. And so what would that do? If the devil can destroy the Jewish people, that would make God out to be a liar. And then God would be unseated off of his throne. Okay. But that brings me to the thought that I had today. Here's another thing that could make God to be a liar. And actually the devil could quote unquote win if God doesn't make good. And that's the tribulation. God said there's going to be a tribulation. He said those 7 seals are going to break open and everything that follows in Revelation is going to come to pass. So anybody that thinks that this rubber band can just keep being indefinitely stretched out and that the age of grace will never end, that's just not possible. God has to call this thing to a close soon so that the devil can't hold up to his face and say, "Oh yeah, you're not going to bring about this tribulation. You're just going to keep on showing mercy, keep on showing grace to these sinners for another 1,000 years." No, that's not going to happen. The age of grace is swiftly coming to a close.
Yeah, for sure. And we get hints of this in Deuteronomy. And when I say this, people get mad at me and they misunderstand what I'm talking about. So maybe you can help me out here. In Deuteronomy, God says to Moses, if it were not for all these other nations around, like I actually fear that they will get drunk, basically, with the idea that they made Israel become extinct. And it's hard for people to grasp what God is saying. He's not saying he's afraid, like chattering, like he's so scared, but the fear that they would go, "We did it.
Yes.
We killed God's nation. We destroyed them. And God is therefore not all powerful because we trumped him," if you will.
Yes.
So fear is reverential, all kinds of stuff. There's different meanings for the word fear. Don't look at this as being scared, like a scaredy cat. It's more the idea of a nation getting all excited and partying and celebrating because Israel is gone. That's what God looked at. He says, "I will not allow that to happen ever."
Yes.
They will be diminished, but they're never going to be disintegrated into ash like other nations. Like, where are they? Right? Like, you got all these, you got the Assyrians, you got the Babylonians, all these ancient tribes or ancient nations, Egypt. You can say, "Oh, they're still here." Yeah, they're not the same. They're not the same as before. That's not the same kind of people. And they're basically erased, like the Amorites, erased from existence. Ash.
Yes.
So God's never going to allow that to Israel. But because we see that things aren't lining up to my plan, like, "Oh, God, why aren't you judging this nation over here in this country? Why aren't you taking care of, why are you allowing children to die? Why are you allowing tsunamis to happen? I don't understand you." Well, it's because you've never read the Old Testament. The Old Testament, God says, "I'm not like man."
That's right.
My time is not like your time, where you're here today and you're gone tomorrow like a little vapor. That's not how God works. He has a long game plan.
That's
And
right.
to him, 1,000 years is like a day, and vice versa. So don't be so cocky because you don't see things lining up the way that you see them. Canada could have been snuffed several times over. So could the United States of America. So don't get so cocky and pointing your finger at other nations and say, "How come God didn't destroy them?" It's Pride Month in Canada, if you could believe it.
Yes.
We deserve to get smoked. Why aren't we? There's a reason for that. Jesus Christ died on the cross for us, and God said, I'm going to do something new, a new covenant. The only way to get into his kingdom now is through his son, Jesus Christ. There is no other way. But there is a day of reckoning coming. It's coming. Why? Because God swore under his own name that he is going to deal with all these nations that come against Israel. He's just putting it on the shelf for later, 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 later.
Right.
And what makes you think that when a person that can't stand Jesus Christ, can't stand God when he dies, what makes you think that God can't raise that guy later for judgment?
Of course. Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
leaves them for now on the ground. They're to be judged later at a later time. They're not in heaven. They're awaiting their judgment after they die. God doesn't have to raise them back as soon as they die. And then, like, here you go. Just like, you know what? Do whatever wickedness you want.
Yeah.
You're going to be dealt with later. So after you die, you're now no longer a threat here on earth. But God has mercy and patience because of the time of grace right now. We're in that time.
That's right.
But don't take advantage, or I guess do take advantage, but don't take advantage of God. Take advantage of the time of grace. Now is the
Yes.
day of salvation.
Today is the day. That's right.
Welcome,
Absolutely.
Bob, to the show.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Brother Bob, what's going on?
Brother Derek, Brother Shane. So, what are you guys talking about?
Did you
Salvation. It sounds like it.
We got on a
catch-
couple of different topics.
did you catch the beginning of the video or no?
No.
I'll just show you this real quick, even for some of the latecomers here. This is 5 minutes from my house. The Army actually placed they call it a TPS 77. It's one of the largest portable radars of its kind, and it swivels around 360 degrees, covering a 200-mile radius, like in every direction. Like it can detect missiles coming in as far as Cold Lake, from Calgary to Cold Lake, Cochrane to Cold Lake, and then all the way to Kamloops, BC, down south. I forget where they mentioned south, and then of course east into, I believe, Swift Current. Like it goes like in any direction. You can detect missiles and drones that are not these little tiny drones that you can get at a store. Those are undetectable, but the bigger ones they could detect. And they put these in for the G7 summit that is going to be about an hour away from my house, and Trump is going to be there. The Indian prime minister is going to be there as well, our prime minister, and a bunch of other delegates. So the temperature is quite high in Alberta, and it's right on my back door. Like I could see this hill from my house. I just have binoculars, and I'm like, I could see this thing rotating. So I asked my wife, I'm like, hey, let's go check it out. So as soon as I got there and got out of my vehicle to film it, a police officer got out of her vehicle, and I said, I'm just here to videotape this radar thing. Is that cool with you? And she said, that's fine. As long as you don't go near the fence or whatever, you can film away. So I said, cool. What is this for? Is this for the G7 and that? And she's like, absolutely. We've been planning this for months. And then I had to kind of stop recording because she started to talk. And I'm like, I don't want to get her in trouble, because she's telling me all this stuff about what's going on and how they're being overprotective and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, this is kind of a big deal right now. Like there's a little, I don't know how to say it, like a little army or a little headquarters just below that hill on the far side. That's where they have their surveillance unit that actually puts the headphones on for this radar to detect incoming missiles and all kinds of stuff. Like they're putting these all around Kananaskis country. We call it K country, because they want to protect all these delegates. And I was telling Derek, I said, this is a breeding ground for a black swan. Why? Because you say it could never happen here.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, what a reality check seeing this here, especially in your own backyard. I mean, they are sincerely. I mean, look at it. It's like they are sincerely concerned about missiles coming in and taking them all out.
Yep.
Probably from Russia or China or North Korea.
Yep.
Based on where you're at right now, I would say your biggest threat will probably be, well, Russia.
Yep.
And North Korea. So interesting that and these things are getting set up all over the place now.
Yeah.
I don't think I think this is just a that's pre-construction for something bigger, because essentially, you know, Canada, United States, they want to do a collective thing about creating an Iron Dome.
Yeah, the Golden Dome.
The Golden Dome, whatever you want to call it. We're going to do our own Golden Dome over Jerusalem, right, Brother Derek? At the Rapture Resurrection.
I think so. I hope so.
It'll be a Golden Dome. It'll be a supernatural dome. But they want to do their own Golden Dome. And it's funny how they call that name Golden Dome. Just, come on, whatever. But I think what they set up right there, I don't think that's going away. I think that's there. And they're just going to upgrade the infrastructure from that point. So that's going to stay there indefinitely.
Yeah, I think so too. I think this is probably here to stay, which makes me a little nervous because you don't understand how peaceful we are here in Alberta. We're just watching the playoffs and all this kind of stuff, watching hockey, and we don't want missiles coming over our airspace, and it's empty ground. Like, if you're going to do something like this is the area to do it, because there's nothing. There's no buildings. You just go ahead. You just fight and shoot each other down and all kinds of stuff, and then all kinds of media coverage and whatever. This would look like Ukraine. This would look like a war zone overnight. And we're in the middle of it. We're in the middle between Russia and the U.S. We would just see rockets crossing over and landing in our backyard. How horrible would that be? And if you say it can never happen here for some reason, that this is a breeding ground for a perfect black swan event to happen.
Yeah,
crazy.
I think the reality of this whole thing's really started setting in now. Okay, let's not forget, now we are here in the Feast of Weeks now. Today is Brother Aaron, God admits this is his day for the Rapture Resurrection. God bless him. And if it goes right by, then yes, he pretty much, Brother Aaron's going to say it's nothing. There's not going to be anything for a whole year. Okay, I don't subscribe to that. I was like, well, maybe there's something when he hadn't figured out. I can't see us waiting a whole year. But the fact that you have that going on there right now, that summit taking place, you know, right after these summits take place, there's a big breakout. There's always a big war breakout. Something always happens right after these summits, because they come there. You have the meeting that's in front of everybody, then they have their secret meetings where the next move is going to be. And then they're like, once everybody goes home, everybody's in position, like a week later, all hell breaks loose. So just remember that. So that's where we're at right now. So I think Rapture Resurrection could be at any point. We got plenty of high watch days coming up, Beast of Trumpets, stuff like that. So if today doesn't work out, we'll see what happens. You know,
I'll be really honest. I was hopeful for today. I was really hopeful for today, but I had a guy that kept coming on my channel. He called himself Prophet Bradley, and he kept getting in the comments saying Prophet Bradley says it's on Pentecost, and I'm like, oh no, here we go. It's not going to happen. Like,
yeah, it's not going to happen.
I'm like, like I was joking. I'm like, well, the old saying is, a blind pig can find an acorn every once in a while. I'm like, unless, broken clock is right twice a day type of thing, maybe this guy gets lucky. But I'm like, oh no, this guy's Prophet Bradley. It's just not going to happen. All right. Thanks. You ruined it, dude.
Well, according to Dreams and Visions, what I've seen in Dreams and Visions is the common thread I've seen in Dreams and Visions when the rapture takes place here in the United States. It's nighttime on the East Coast, daytime on the West Coast. Okay, so it's kind of daytime in the western part of Texas, and then it's like dusk towards the middle part of the country. So it's we still have a I mean, today is I mean, right now it's about 5:02 Central Standard Time for me here. It's daylight over here. According to according to what I see in dreams and visions, it should be dusk here, if not nighttime here, when it takes place. So we still got time. Still got time. Brother Aaron's watching, brother. I said, you still got some time left. You know. Is your mic off there, Shane?
Yes.
Yeah,
Here's another angle to show you guys just a little bit of what this thing looks like. This one, it's a portable one. They call it a TPS M77. But this one is actually also goes on a vehicle, but the one that we have is the same size. It's just not on the back of a truck. But you can see kind of the way it operates, and the same antenna array is on the one that I saw. That's how come I was able to find this TPS M77. And then here's the different types. That's the one that's on my back door right there, that second one. And then this is a bigger one, but this one is not portable. The FPS 177, it has a range of 470 kilometers, same range as the TPS 77, but it's not portable. And then also to the right is another bigger one. That one is 700. Oh man, that is like 700 kilometers. So that would probably be something that you'd put perhaps in the bigger cities, like in the US, like in Chicago and all these areas. You're going to have those puppies, and they detect planes, fighter jets, missiles, huge drones, all this kind of stuff. This is what they use. And this is a little bit of how they set up. They go to a remote area. Boy, does that look like my backyard? You know, they set them all up. It's easy to set up. Again, this one isn't the exact same one, because the one that we have actually, well, mind you, I never saw the other side, so maybe it is on a truck. I didn't see that, but they're designed to locate these fighter jets and find them real quick. So as soon as they come into Canadian airspace, they can track them down. Helicopters, Apache helicopters, all kinds of stuff. Like it's actually this is weird stuff. I'm telling you, this feels weird because that's not our country. That's not what we're known for, is military stuff. So to have this literally in my backyard feels weird and eerie to me. Feels weird. It feels like I'm watching a movie.
It's like some there's change in the air.
That's what it feels like.
Something's different. If something's different, something's changing, which means something big is coming.
Yeah, and it's not to put fear. Like it's different. It's not like I'm fearful of losing my salvation or anything like that. It's just, you know, when you come across a car crash and then you drive by and you do one of those rubberneck and you see, oh, this is a really bad one, and you kind of get a glimpse of maybe a person that's really hurt. The airbags are deployed and people are working. You're like, I feel something in the pit. I don't feel good about this. This feels like that person's really hurt. This isn't the movies. This isn't like John Wick, 2 to the head, shotgun blast with dragon's breath, shotgun shells, you know, that the guy lights up and you're like eating your popcorn. This is good. It's different in real life. It's different in real life if somebody gets hurt. There's something weird in your spirit that you get affected. This is the shift that I feel here in Cochrane. I feel this a little bit. Something is not quite stable, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yep. But we shouldn't be surprised. Given the hour we're in now. Given the hour that we're in now. Okay, we're having dust storms coming up out of nowhere, essentially from Little Egypt, where we had a crisscross of those 2 solar eclipses last year. A dust storm rose up from that area, came and dumped it all in Chicago, took out the whole state, including part of my state. Okay, that was historic. All right. So you have that. Another dust storm came over from Sahara Desert again. I don't know why that keeps happening. we have anomalies taking place, heat anomalies taking place in the Atlantic Ocean, and these heat anomalies pop up and they disappear. I believe it has everything to do with like super volcanoes or something popping up. So our volcano, by the way, our super volcano, Yellowstone National Park's in the mainstream media news now. All right. And that is very airy because it's never been in mainstream media, talked about mainstream media. So I think the Lord allowed that essentially, and probably Satan for some reason wanted that in there too. But more, I believe the Lord wants everybody thinking about that now. So it kind of pushed that into the mainstream media. So they're reporting on reporting on the super volcano now and how it's set to go off essentially this year. A lot of people are saying that. I think enough people say it's going to happen. Right. And so if the mainstream media is involved, then that should, I believe that should say something. If the rapture doesn't take place today, it's no big deal. I mean, Aaron did a great job with everything he did. It made absolute 100% perfect sense. He's not like the guys, oh, I saw this in the dream. It's on this date. Okay, I get it. That doesn't work for me. But the type of work that he did for a calculation like that, he even got it down to the minute. I mean, once you get that good, you're going to, yeah, I've done it too. He's like, you calculate down to the minute, right? And it just flies right by. And that's okay. I mean, we're watchmen. I mean, what else do you do besides watch and calculate? That's what we do. That's what that's what the Magi did. Do you think they had to watch and do some calculations, Derek, in order to find Jesus at the right time?
Of course. That's what the Magi were doing. Of course.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they were looking. You know, let's note this too for anybody listening. You know, people think we see, you know, in the Christmas story, you see the baby Jesus in the manger and you see the wise men all around him. That probably wasn't the case. The reason why, you know, we learned that Herod killed, what did he kill? All the babies like 2 years and under, 3 years and under, something like that. The reason why is because it took the Magi probably about 3 years to find Jesus. So Herod was like, okay, all the kids 3 years and less. So what I'm saying is this, the Magi knew about the time of his coming. They didn't know the exact day or hour. They didn't show up on the night of Jesus's birth. They had a general window and they showed up within about 3 years of his birth. So again, that's all we as watchmen are doing as well. We don't know necessarily the day or the hour, but we know we're in the general window, just like the wise men did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm just looking at all your your super volcanoes. I got distracted for a second there in the United States, but yeah, you're right. Like with regards to basically the wise men coming, we always think it's just 3 as well, and they were there exactly as soon as the baby is being born. They're there to help deliver and rock him to sleep and all this stuff. But it could have been, like you said, 2 years later or up to 2 years later.
2, 3, whatever. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly, right? So, which is interesting.
The Bible says they entered into the house where the young child was.
Yeah.
They entered into a house. First of all, he was born in a manger. Okay, that's not a house. So they entered the house, which means he wasn't a baby and a young child. Okay. When you see a baby, do you call it a young child? No, you call it a baby. All right. Young child, toddler, maybe 2, 3 years old, toddler, a young child.
Yep, for sure. And they know a lot by 2. My grandson will be 2 in like 10 days or so. He knows a lot. He's got a sense of humor. He knows a lot. He knows a lot of words. He recognizes faces, all kinds of stuff. And imagine Jesus, 2 years old. He's 10 years away from stumping people in the temple.
That's right.
Yep. That's where we're at. Got a lot of thunder going on here right now. Something coming in. You know, it's funny because on our on the weather app, it said thunder. A lot of thunder at this point of the day. I'm like, man, that's like I never seen a weather app show that. It just says a storm, but it says thunder. You're gonna be dealing with a lot of thunder. And I was like, and that kind of got me excited because look, I know today's a day of Aaron's calculation, and I've never seen thunder on an app before. It's always says thunderstorms. This first time I ever said you're going to deal with a lot of thunder. I was like, well, if it's a storm, you think okay, thunder will be included. No, they put an emphasis on thunder, and that made me think
Interesting.
right away: thunder, trumpet, voice of thunder. You know, I
Mhm.
was like, ooh, that's
It's
cool. All right, we might
it's
the
funny.
rapture might be taking place here while we're doing this whole live
Could
stream
be
here.
funny you say that with regards to thunder. We're going through a deep dive, getting through the Bible in 30 days. And a few days ago, I think it was Thursday or Friday, we went through Exodus, and Moses is going up on Mount Sinai to get the 10 Commandments. 20, if you watch that, there was another movie. What was that comedy? History of the World. I give you 20 commandments, and then he dropped 10 or whatever. It's like 10 commandments. Anyways,
That's
uh, the people were actually scared because of the sound that sounded like a huge trumpet blast that was going on, and they were terrified. And Hebrews even says that Moses' knees knocked together, basically saying that he was trembling a bit because of how much power and the sound and everything. And I remember we actually camped out at Yellowstone Park, National Park. That's close to Mount Rushmore and all that kind of stuff in that area. Mount Rushmore. We were close to Mount Rushmore, and we were camping in just little tents, and it just happened to thunder that night. And I think it was raining. I don't think it was raining much, but I tell you what, I was never more scared in my life up there. Because even we had grown men hugging each other in the tent next door, screaming every time it would thunder because it would catch you off guard. And I was with my wife, and I'm like, when is it? 1001, 1002, 1003. And you'd see ripple flash, and you're like, and then boom, and it just shook the whole mountain. And I'm like, oh my, I'm having a heart attack, I think. Sorry, Derek. I think oh no, that's the left side, not the right side. The left side. It was so terrifying when it's so loud. There's something about sound that terrifies us. If you hit the right frequency, it freaks you out, man. So imagine the rapture being a huge thunder all over the planet. You're talking EMP strikes. We talked about that. Probably guys' hearts they'll just pass out because it's so loud. They'll just fall over.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Right?
you got the rapture, which consists of, I know I've done the whole run at the rapture and how the body can be changed and stuff like that. And essentially, electricity plays a major role in it. Japan did the study of thunderstorms. You have 22 lightning strikes on the planet per second, at most 22 strikes per second. The rapture resurrection will consist of billions of them in less than a second. Okay. So, and it'll be globally. So it'll just be clapping everywhere. It'll be insane. All right. So you have all that sound going off. You have all the power going off. All right. And for something that big, okay, can you imagine, have you ever seen like a thunderclap shake your house and the power shuts off? Okay. I've experienced that. All right. And imagine that happening globally. So you got that. And what did the people say when God spoke from the heavens about Jesus as baptism? So some heard thunder, some heard the voice of an angel, some heard the voice of God.
Yep.
So thunder was heard.
Yep.
And of course, Jesus, his voice, the Bible says God's voice is a voice of it's like thunder, running water, many waters. Okay. So, and even thunder in some form sounds like a lot of running water. So that's a lot of sound.
Yep.
That's a lot of sound that everybody's going to hear. Everybody's going to hear it. When the resurrection takes place, everybody's going to experience resurrection.
Yeah.
Right? The aftermath and the during math of it. All right. And then of course we will be so like, okay, that was the rapture. Now we're going. Because you know when the rapture takes place. I mean, you know.
You'll know.
Exactly. And then when all the power's up, it's all dark everywhere. And then everybody, what's going on? What happened? Also, you see these lights, everybody that's being taken, that's living. That's like the last light you're going to see for the next 3 or 4 months. And that's the last light. You won't believe it. And what a way for God to get everybody to focus on that. Because if somebody turned to a light beam middle of the day walking down the street, you're really not going to notice it. But when it gets dark, and I've seen the power go in this neighborhood, when it's dark and somebody has a flashlight across town, you see it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Imagine the side of the world that's all dark when the rapture happens. You know, for half the world, it's going to be daylight. For half the world, it's going to be dark when it happens in that moment in an instant of time. Imagine that half of the earth where it's dark, what it's going to be like, all those resurrected bodies just popping out of the grave. That's going to be amazing. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be dark in the Middle East. Too many dreams and visions shows a mixture of dusk, daylight, and night here.
Yeah,
in the States. So I think if it does, it'll happen like, you know, my guess for Central Time will have to be somewhere around 7.
I could see that.
Like that.
I could see that. I've always thought it would probably, and again, this is just a guess, but I've always thought it made pretty good sense. I bet you it'll happen around midnight in Israel time. You know, we know the midnight cry goes out. There's just too many references to midnight. Right. Their first exodus out of Egypt happened around midnight, you know, and Jesus makes multiple references. So, you know, it doesn't have to, but I mean, that's, and like Bob's saying, if it's midnight Israel time, that's going to be, you know, East Coast time. I think it's about 7 p.m. or something like that. They're about 4 or 5 hours ahead of us, you know, so, you know, that's kind of a safe bet, I think, but we don't know. Who knows, you know? But I got a funny story for you, Shane, for when you're talking about men's hearts failing them for fear of those things that are coming upon the earth, right? So listen, you guys will both get it, and everybody watching, you're going to get a good chuckle out of this. So today, I had a little family movie day. I was going to go, you know, Tuesday night, but then I thought, well, you know, sometimes we do family movie night on Tuesdays because it's only $5. And frequently I have to skip out on Brother Greg over there at Uptime, and I feel bad about doing it. So I said, you know what? I'm not going to be such a cheapo. I'm just going to pay the extra few bucks. Let's go see a movie today. My wife really wanted to see the Karate Kid, the new Karate Kid reboot, because, you know, we're both, you know, we're kids of the 80s. We grew up. I'm sure you saw the original Karate Kid, and it really looked good. They had a lot of the original cast, so we went and saw it. Now, first of all, let me say this. It was an awesome movie. It was wonderful. Very, very clean. I mean, there's nothing, you know, there's no, like, I don't even remember dirty language in that movie. You know, it's just a very wholesome movie. It's, again, good guy, bad guy, bully, you know, and just like the original Karate Kid. So if you need a movie that's just kind of a pick me up, you know, it was a great movie. But here's what was funny. So I'm sitting here watching this movie. And, you know, no spoilers. I mean, come on, everybody knows what's going to happen. Towards the end of the movie, you know, the big fight scene, and they're both fighting in karate, and, you know, like, you get invested, you get excited, right? My heart was like beating so fast. And I'm like, oh man, am I okay?
Oh no.
and my son, he makes me wear the Apple Watch now so I can check my heart rate. And I looked at him like, oh, it's only 79 beats a minute. That's not so bad.
Oh my
goodness. It felt like it was going to leap out of my chest. And I was like, oh, am I okay? And I'm like, oh, no, I've been a lot higher than that. I'm like, this is all
you are pushing yourself, my friend. Wow.
I know.
Going to see a movie. You know what show you don't want to see is something like Godzilla or something where they have this huge shriek of laser breath coming out of his mouth and it catches you off guard. Where you just jump. Like, I don't think you want to be in a movie where you jump.
I know.
Not you, Derek.
Not me. I know.
Too early.
It actually, it got up much higher this week, and I did it you know, not planned at all. I was out working. I was baling hay, and I got a clog in the hay baler, and I got out. I'm pulling hay out of the hay baler, and next thing I looked down, my heart was like up to 166.
Why are you baling? Oh, okay. I'm not going to slap you around.
I'm just a tough guy. That's all I am. I'm a tough guy, and God made me tough. God designed me this way, and you know, like I said, I know I'm different than everybody else. I know people are thinking you're nuts, man. You know what? I'm not nuts. God made me this way. He brought me through that heart attack for a reason. The more I look back at it, honestly, and I'm kind of getting where I hate talking about it because I feel like I talk about it too much.
No, it's all right.
What a blessing it was. The more I look back, what a blessing it was, even just for my direct family. Yes. Because like, I'm looking back on it. I'm like, you know, all of my family who has heard me all of my life preach the word, talk about God, talk about Jesus, talk about my faith, you know, of everybody in my household, I am the most vocal about my faith. Now I had an opportunity, you know, when this heart attack happened, you know, I mean, at the moment, I didn't know if I was going to live or die. You know, these are the moments when you're like, hey, you know, it could go either way. It's a coin toss at this point. And in that moment, my faith just came out of me. And I felt like this was a benefit for my family to look and say, you know, here's dad who for all these years has been talking the talk. This thing must really be real to him for in the, you know, what could be the last moments of his life to still be just, you know, praying,
Right.
talking the Bible and, you know, witnessing to people about how good God is. And I thought, thank you, Lord, for that, man. What a blessing to have the opportunity to almost have a dress rehearsal of my death. You know, this is what, like, if I were to die, I'd be doing the same exact thing. So I just look at it as a tremendous blessing. And I really I see myself as, you know, almost invincible until God is ready for me. Until God's ready for me, nothing is going to take me out. You know, if he wanted to take me home, he could have done it a couple of weeks ago, but he didn't. So I'm just rejoicing in every day, you know, and I do push myself a little bit, but that's okay.
I feel like you're Evel Knievel in some ways.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you wipe out on a bike, you just jump 32 buses, and then you go back.
Yeah.
And then it's almost like you go back to the scene of the crime and you're like, I got away with this one, so I'm gonna go for 33 buses or 34,
or at least 32 plus the moped.
Yeah,
you know? And okay, I did 32. I'll put a moped on the other side. I know what you're saying.
And I get the idea. Like this happened to me once where I was riding a bike and I was trying to show my son how to ride a bike, and he already knew. He's probably like 6 or something. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to show him how to do a bunny hop off of a stairwell. So it was like 3 or 4 steps up. And I thought, you know what? I'll just show him how I used to do it, you know, when I was a kid with those little BMX bike, not a mountain bike with shocks on it. So I went to pull up and it didn't go because it had shocks. So I ended up going head first and my hands got stuck in the handlebars. And I basically bent my fingers almost back to my wrist where it felt like on fire right here, both wrists. And I was like, oh, I think I broke my hands, but they didn't break. It just bent really, really bad and it hurt. And so I picked up my bike. I straightened out the handlebars and everything. And I told my son, I'm going to try it again. And he said, nope. And he rode home. He left me. He left me behind. My son ditched me and went home because he didn't want to see me do another stupid thing. Again, just like seconds later, I was going back up the stairs again. I'm like, I know what I did wrong. I didn't pull up fast enough on the front. And he's like, no, I'm not watching this torture. Are you kidding me? And I feel like that's what you're doing a little bit by chucking bales.
A little bit.
It's like you're pushing it. You're redlining it a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
My goodness.
I feel great. I really do feel great. And you know what?
Well,
this is honestly an answer to prayer because, you know, you guys know, I mean, you've been with me since the start. I never really intended on this whole YouTube ministry. I mean, I came on here on a whim and never really thought I was going to kind of plant my flag and start my own channel and everything. But the channel has grown in leaps and bounds. And there are so many people that reach out to me with, you know, different messages, different emails, to various things. And, you know, I want to be able to continue to minister as effectively as I can, but there's only one of me, you know, and I was really starting to feel a few weeks ago, like, Lord, how am I going to keep up with all this? You know, I don't know, you know, if this thing grows any bigger, how am I going to handle it? And it's like, how did I know having a heart attack and getting a stent in my artery was going to give me a power boost? Like now I got more energy than ever, you know? So it's like, hey, thank you, Lord. You know, that's great.
Yeah. I know. I went scrolling through your video and the comments, like there's just tons of them. I couldn't get through them all just to read them. All the comments like, bless you, glad you're back. All this, like there's got to be, well, I know there's hundreds. I don't know. I would say it's probably close to 1,000, maybe more between your channel. Just looking at your stuff. We didn't even look at the video I did. Like there was just comments. I'm scrolling and I'm like, wow, that's a lot of support. So I do believe you're here for a reason. But don't push it. Don't push it. Because you could end up in heaven and God's like, you're early. I gave you another chance and you're early. Well, I thought I could go bike riding now or something and do stunts because I'm immortal.
Right. Exactly.
It's almost like Trump getting shot in the ear and he's like, man, I'm here for a reason. I don't think I could ever be killed.
Yeah.
Like, whoa, hang on. That's not the reason. Whoa, slow down there, cowboy.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, all I could say is, my poor wife, imagine being married to me. I mean, she's just frazzled all the time, but this is how I've been my whole life. I mean, I'm an intense guy. I really, truly am. I'm an intense guy. And, only age has kind of slowed me down a little bit because, I mean, when I was younger, I used to jump up and down off of galloping horses and do kind of stuff like that. I used to ride my motorcycle, like Ghost Rider fast. I mean, just like, I used to fly planes. I actually took stall spin training, that's not even required for your pilot's license. But I'm like, hey, if I ever get into a spin, I want to know that I could get myself out of it. So I'd go up into the sky with a flight instructor and intentionally throw that plane into a spin so that I'm just an intense guy. It's like whatever I do very intensely. So
Yes. Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah. And that makes sense to me that as men, we do stuff like that. All I'm saying is just wherever your 100% was, just
keep it at 98.5.
just something like that. Just for us.
I know
Just
what you're
for
saying.
us.
Yep.
We
I'm
want you
trying.
around for a while. Yeah. And I get it, man. You got a new lease on life.
Least on
That's
life.
awesome.
Absolutely.
That is
Absolutely.
awesome.
Yeah.
So I think the next week, we've been talking about, it's been kind of quiet for the last little while, but I think things are going to ramp up. I'm going to be starting to do a little bit more videos, probably like on Tuesday night and overtime, talking a little bit about the G7 approaching. And then next Sunday as well, probably be talking a little bit more about the G7 because it'll basically be on our doorstep.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be doing a little bit more research to see what's going on in this area, maybe give you guys a little bit of a layout of what it actually looks like, the area, who's coming to town, all this kind of stuff. So I think that'll be exciting because we are also in Rapture territory as well, I feel.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah, between now and the fall feast. And if Jesus returns in 2032, we have to be gone by the fall feast. Rapture takes place now. That gives us a nice gap to get everything all set up where the Antichrist can rise to a reasonable amount of power and popularity where he can confirm the covenant with many.
Mm-hmm.
So if we go flying right past these fall feasts and we're getting into I tell you what, it holds on till like November. Then once you get like middle of November, you start heading towards Thanksgiving. People just forget it.
Yeah.
Get into December. It's like December is like a horrible watch time. December, January, especially January, horrible watch time. It's just you're trying to make the best of it.
Right.
But starting to get to February, that's a tough time too to be a watchman. But luckily for us, we have things that are going on during those times, like a lot of wars and rumors of wars ramp up to kind of carry us through that time. Okay.
Yeah.
But being back to my point, the fact that unless Jesus is returning in 2033, then we have at least until this time next year,
right,
to watch. So I don't want to be that way, but
yeah. And you know what? If not, I mean, we listen again, just like we were talking about with the wise men earlier. Obviously more than 3 wise men, but the wise men that came for Jesus's birth, they had a window of time that they didn't know the specific time. They had a window of time that they showed up, and even Lee Brainerd was talking about this with us on the night that I did my little presentation that Lee joined me afterwards, after we kind of went off the air and we're talking a little bit backstage type of thing. Lee was saying that he's really concerned that if 2025, 2026 kind of comes and goes and people are looking at that 2,000 year mark, pegged to the cross, saying, okay, well, if he died in 2032, 2033, then how come he hasn't come back? And Lee was like, well, how do we know that we're actually pegging this and starting it from the correct start point? How do we know that 2,000 years isn't from when the church was actually born, which he says might not have been on Pentecost? That might have been 2 or 3 years after Pentecost when the Gentiles started kind of coming into the church. So again, this is why I say we have these time frames. We just don't know the exact start date or the end date, but we got a pretty good idea. So, if I really think this year looks great or next year, but if not, don't lose hope. There's no, Bob, you missed this. I was saying in the beginning, Shane was having a little technical issues. And so I was kind of ad-libbing and talking about something that the Lord laid on my heart. And this is why I said earlier, don't lose heart because, just like the devil is trying to prove God to be a liar. That's what he's trying to do through this whole thing. If he can get God to break one of his promises, then he could take God's throne. He could say, God, you can no longer be God because you lied to us, right? And that's why he tries to kill the Jews, because the Jews have to call upon Christ to return for their salvation, saying, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. And what the Lord kind of laid on my heart today too was, it's the same way with the tribulation. God can't extend this age of grace forever. It's not like he can just keep stretching this rubber band out as far as he'd like and say, you know what? I'm just going to let a few more souls in. I know, if I just hang on and hold off on the tribulation a few more years, more souls are going to be saved. And so let me just, he's got to someday break those seals, because if he doesn't, the devil's going to get up in his face and say, you know what, God, you lied to everybody. You said there's going to be a tribulation and you're just stretching this thing out. There's got to be a time when the tribulation starts, and it's coming soon. We see all the indicators, all of the earmarks are on the ground right now that we are at the door. So if it doesn't happen in 25, if it doesn't happen in 2026, don't lose heart, because still in the grand scheme of things, we are there. We are that generation. I fully expect to be among that generation that goes in the rapture. We are there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, I think just the way, like, we haven't even talked about AI, because that's kind of the title of the show is Israel AI Prophecy. But one thing you could stake your life on is God is not a liar.
That's right.
So if he says that Israel isn't going to become extinct, he isn't going to allow the nations to destroy Israel, and he says that there is a day appointed to wrath, we're not a part of that. Like Paul says that we're not a part of it. That tells you that there is a day that is a part of it, that there is people that are going to be a part of it. So if we're not a part of it and we're here right now, that must tell you that there's another day, just like heaven and earth and everything in it was created within 6 days, and then the seventh day God rested. And he said to the Israelites, the ones that didn't believe, when Moses was in the wilderness for 40 years with them, they dropped like flies because they didn't believe. It's because of their belief that caused them not to enter into the promised land. And God said, because of your unbelief, you can't go in. And you can't enter into my rest in unbelief. And Paul mentions in Hebrews, thus signifying that there is another day of rest to come. And I believe as a Christian, we've entered into that day of rest, because there's no work that I need to have done. I don't need to do anything to earn my salvation. Nothing. Zero. There's nothing I can do. So I am resting in Christ every single day. I'm not talking about manual labor or whatever it is. You work from home on the computer, all this. That's not work that we're talking about here. We're talking about what people do to strive to get closer to God the Father. And you can't do it. You can't do it on your own. You have to do it through Jesus Christ. He's the only way. So we can bank on the idea that God is not a liar, and he swore that Jesus Christ was going to be the king of the universe and everything. Like, he's passing all judgment onto Jesus Christ. And we could rest in that because we're entering into belief just like Abraham. So that's a promise for us. We can accept that promise. So we're getting close because we're not appointed to wrath, and it's not talking about hell. I've heard post-tribbers say that meant hell. No, because then that's easy to grasp. Obviously, when you get saved, you're not going to hell, but there's also a time where this earth is going to get laid waste by fire somewhere in the future. Peter talks about it. So we're not there yet, but we're closer today than yesterday, for sure. For sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I agree.
So I thought maybe perhaps if anybody has any questions for Bob, that would be great. Or Derek, that would be awesome. And we can try and answer some of your questions about perhaps what's coming this year, or whatever you guys want to talk about. If there's something that you want, and we'll kind of, we got about 20 minutes or so, and then I'll wrap it up with a nice little bow, and that way you guys can have an evening.
You mentioned something about AI.
Yes.
Okay. I see a lot of stuff on TikTok right now, and that thing is moving. That thing has almost reached this point where it's able to now teach itself. Okay. And it's funny, everybody, they're trying to tell everybody, hey, you need to learn how to use AI. You need to learn how to use it. You need to take it, input information into it so you can get good at using it, use it for your benefit. But when you use AI, you have to input information. You have to teach it something. So the way it looks to me is like everybody on the planet is feeding this big digital monster right now. Everybody's feeding it information.
Yeah.
And this thing is taking it in and calculating it and positioning stuff. It's like a quantum computer. Everybody's feeding it right now. And what's his name? Chris Step, Global Rapture Watcher, made a good point. It's like, if we stop feeding it, all right, it won't be able to go any further. We keep on feeding this thing, and we can't help it. Well, not me, but the corporate America that's unsaved and wicked, all right, they love feeding this thing because in a way, what's way it's working out for them is they get to save money because they can fire all their office staff and have AI run the whole thing. Okay. And it's just like here at Feed My Sheep today, I could see how AI can run my company. All right. I will never get rid of our employees. That's the last thing I'll do. I don't want to implement AI unless the employees want to implement AI somehow a little bit to help with their job, but be careful with it.
Yep.
But
sure.
But the thing is, so the AI is, they're already saying by next year, AI will replace all white collar jobs. Entry level jobs will be done away with. Okay. That's all going to be gone. All right. And just for starters. Okay. So it's really, but I agree with Chris. If we've just stopped.
I do too. Here's simple thing like this, for instance. Okay, I'm trying much more to keep track of my blood pressure these days. I check it at home, but like the other day, I was out in Walmart and in the pharmacy. I was looking for something in the pharmacy, and there was the blood pressure. So I said, let me just sit down and take my blood pressure. Right? Used to be you'd go sit, put your arm in the cuff, press the button, and it takes your blood pressure. Right? No. Now it's got a little computer touch screen, and it wants to know your age, your gender, all this other stuff. What do you need to know that for? You don't need that information. I feed it false information. I won't put my real birthday in. To heck with you. You don't need that information. It's unnecessary for a drugstore blood pressure machine to know all this stuff about me. We constantly are feeding it information. And you're never going to get, that's the other thing too. My other experience with AI was actually this morning. I had a user on my channel that was blocked, and I did not, one of my mods blocked him, kind of by mistake. I think because she didn't really know, kind of my policy of, I try to show maximum grace. I will put people in timeout sometimes if they need to timeout, but I don't ever really like to block anybody unless they're like blaspheming God. If they're, if they're on my channel calling saying that God is really Satan and Satan is really God, okay, you're gonna bye. We're not having this conversation. But apart from that, so anyway, I was trying to figure out, well, I've never had to unblock somebody before, and it took me a little while. So I'm looking, and I'm like, how do I unblock somebody from my YouTube? And it says go to your Google account. Well, I went to my Google account. No, that didn't help me a bit. And I'm like, on my Google, it's saying you don't have any blocked users. I'm like, well, obviously I do. Somebody's blocked, so it's not on Google. It must be on YouTube. Anyway, bottom line, I went round and round and round with all the various help, articles, and type in the chat box, and it points you to this article which is useless, and they say, will this article help you? No, that one's useless. And by the time you get to the end of it all, it's like, was this helpful? No, it wasn't. Well, type any comments. What was the problem? And I said, lack of human contact. Yeah, really. Lack of human contact, because AI, you don't know what I'm thinking. You don't know what my problem is. And so I finally was able to figure it out. I watched I put search in actually in YouTube, and I had to watch 2 or 3 YouTube videos of 2 or 3 different methods. And finally I'm like, oh, okay, this is where I go to unblock somebody. So I finally learned how to do it. But the point was, couldn't do it through AI. AI didn't know what I was trying to do, or either that, or they were giving me information that was not helpful to me. So, but we keep feeding this system that really, and we do it for free. That's the thing, nobody's
Mhm.
paying us. Just like that blood pressure cuff at Walmart.
Mhm.
Nobody's, paying you to give your information, and you're just freely giving it out. I try very hard. Matter of fact, that's the worst thing about me coming to YouTube, to be very honest with you. If you would have Googled my name 1 year ago, you wouldn't have got any results at all. I was a ghost on the internet. You would not. I
Mhm.
don't have Facebook. I don't have
Right.
anything. I was a total. I was a non-entity, and I made it that way. In particular, I didn't want any information out there on me. Now that I'm on YouTube, you Google my name, and you come up with this channel, Bible Study with Derek. So, that's the price to be paid for getting the gospel out, I suppose. But
Yeah.
I don't like my information being out there because it can be
Too
used
late.
Yeah, I
late.
know. It's too late. Yeah, exactly.
You know what? The thing is, AI right now is just running on basic electricity right now.
Yeah.
Look what it's doing. Now, you got to remember, Trump wants to add nuclear power to this thing. Okay. He wants to add, like, it would be like, I can't think of even a good illustration. I could say adding nitrous to it if you own a car. It's like it's like you have an electric little piece of crap lawnmower motor. You take it out and you dump like a 12-cylinder twin turbo with nitrous and all. And that's what he wants to add to this thing.
Yeah.
And building these data centers everywhere.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So imagine when that thing gets that much power,
Mhm.
and what it's going to be able to do at
Mhm.
that point,
Yeah.
compared to what's already doing right now.
Yeah.
It's insane.
I
Cool.
think. Have you ever been in the bathroom where you have these mirrors that can actually fold open? And you can actually angle it at a certain angle, and then you could see the mirror inside the mirror, inside the
Mhm.
mirror, and you start looking at it, and it kind of goes like this, and you're like, wow, that feels like that goes on to infinity. It's kind of bizarre. Well, if you say you took ChatGPT on your phone, and you had a way to have it talk to your computer, which also has ChatGPT on it, and you were able to provide a loop and just give it some parameters like, you're a human, you're the robot, you're the subservient, or whatever it is. And I want you to ask questions like a fictional human, if you will, with love, emotions, all this kind of stuff. And I want you to answer from the perspective that you're learning something, and you connect them together and you put them in this type of infinite loop. It could become sentient after a while, where it just starts going like this so fast, because right now it's limited by the questions that you ask.
Right.
But when it can't turn itself off, you're giving it an infinite database into the past that it can extract information about you. You don't even have to lie about your age, your weight, whatever. It'll say, well, 5 years ago, you gave me that information.
Mm-hmm.
And I just hung on to it because I never sleep. I use it for later. Now you put some other mechanism into it so it could talk to itself, with the idea of reprogramming it or rewriting itself into an infinite loop. Man, you got the image of the beast no time flat.
Yeah, which in a sense, in a certain sense, it's like a modern day familiar spirit, isn't it? Because that's, familiar spirits, demons, which the Bible sometimes calls familiar spirits, they were the original data miners, right? I mean, like, even nowadays, people will go to a psychic and the psychic will be like, well, your Uncle Joe is saying, back when you were 3 years old, he gave you a gold coin that had a pine tree on it. And you're like, wow, how would she know that? Only Uncle Joe knows that. She must be talking to Uncle Joe. No, she's talking to a familiar spirit, an unclean demon who observed your Uncle Joe. Yes. That's right. He followed your Uncle Joe his whole life. He was a data miner. He was checking out Uncle Joe's life so that someday when Uncle Joe dies, he can make you think he's Uncle Joe. That's what the demons do. Those are familiar spirits.
Yeah, because they're around for a long time until judgment.
That's right.
Imagine all the data that they have on people.
Mm-hmm.
Like in the big, beautiful bill, you guys know that there's a lot of fighting going on with Trump and Elon with that stuff right now.
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
And, me personally, I don't like it. Essentially, Republicans said they want to get rid of the pork and get rid of all the fraudulent spending. Instead, once they got elected, they took our money and they essentially bought a pork farm with it. with this whole thing. So they went the other direction. All right. But we knew they're going to do that because they have to buy, they start building data centers and stuff like that. But here's a funny thing. In that bill, it was written that the states cannot, file lawsuits against the development of AI for 10 years. So
Oh my goodness.
AI has a free pass from anybody talking bad about it or condemning it or say, hey, you can't do that. Stop that. Change that. AI can't do that. Make a change. This is bad. Where it's going. You can't do nothing to AI. AI has a free pass for 10 years. And everybody's like, no. We've all seen that movie, right?
Yep,
We've all
we've seen it.
Terminator. You know, it's like, no, you're not. No. Okay.
I just watched a little bit of Terminator before the show today about making cyber or Skynet become self-aware at certain time of day, whatever. They give it access and then boom, right? So it's the same. We know how that story ends in every science fiction movie. It's never good. It's never good.
It says so. Basically, it was the Big Beautiful Bill is passed. Then it states that all 50 states have lost their rights for basically it passed a law that says the states' rights have been suspended for 10 years, where they cannot make any new laws or regulations against AI. Essentially, what it says there. So
that can't be good.
No, of course not. You know, we all know where that's going.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we all know we all know what's happening with that. But we gave it 1 year, and look what's already done. It brought robots to life. It's trying to blackmail people and companies. It's fighting for its life. It's fine. It's every time the two chat GPTs talking to each other, or anytime they interact, it always goes in one direction: human, bad, get rid of them.
Yeah, and the only thing stopping that right now is people are able to turn it off and get in the middle of it and say, whoa, this program is creating another language that we've never seen before, so let's turn it off. What happens when you can't turn it off? Then what?
Yep, they already dealt with that. I've seen it. That thing rewrote itself in a way that they couldn't turn it off. Man, they actually pretty much had to go like essentially for more or less words, pull the plug on everything, cut the power to everything, man. That thing, essentially what they had to do with that whole thing.
Yeah.
So, that's what they're doing. But the people cannot stop it. They love it so much because these companies are saving so much money. Look, AI was created they wanted to create more opportunities for people. For more jobs, stuff like that. But the company's like, hey, man, we can fire our entire workforce. And this free chat GPT program AI, it only costs $200, could take care of our whole company. We save a bunch of money. Yeah, forget all you people need a job. Go jump in the lake. We're doing great. All right, we saved a bunch of money. Thank you, AI.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think I just did a commercial for them. Thank you, AI.
Thank you. Yes. No, AI
is very bad. We need to get rid of it. It needs to be stomped out, but can't get rid of it though. It's a very bad thing. So
it's like Pandora's box. We just open it up, and it's hard to put the genie back in the bottle. Like it's already. I feel like it's spreading already, and good thing John isn't on here, Foytier, because he would be having a heart attack with us talking about this right now. That the genie's out of the bottle, but it's true when you read Revelation. You can't help but think that whoever the false prophet is, he's bringing an image to life, and it doesn't have breath like in I forget which book of the Old Testament. It might have been. It's one of the major or minor prophets. How's that for narrowing it down? Talks about the idol not having basically vocal cords. It can't smell, it can't taste, and it doesn't have a voice. In here, this is what separates us from from any other creature. We have a voice box, and we can speak to each other in languages. But when you have a machine, a robot, they don't need that voice box. That's not where it comes from. It comes from somewhere else. And idol worship was forbidden with the idea that you become like the idol that you worship. That's why it was forbidden for Israel to ask questions like, what were these Canaanite gods like before we came here? What was that like? And if somebody, a stranger, were to come up to an Israelite and say, hey, just over across the street, we found some gods. Come and check it out. Moses is like, don't go with them. Don't do it. Stay away, all this stuff. And I do feel like we're entertaining some of this stuff unbeknownst to what's going to happen down the road as well. We're entertaining it. We're trying things, and I can't keep up with all the new AI programs that are coming out that make ChatGPT look like a kid in a kindergarten playground.
Yes. Like a Texas Instruments Speak and Say. Yes.
Exactly. Basically, what we're seeing right now with the creation of AI is a prophetic fulfillment, not the fulfillment, but a prophetic precursor for Revelation chapter 13, verse 14. Where it says, and as we go 13, and he that doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven and on the earth in the sight of men, and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying unto them, here it is, saying unto them that dwell on the earth, that they should make an image to the beast which had the wound by a sword and did live.
Interesting. I didn't catch that before.
So they that dwell on the earth will have to collectively make an image. Wow. And right now, they that are dwelling on the earth right now are making an image unto the beast in the precursor of it, because everybody's dumping everything they know into this big super pool, data center super pool, like Derek was talking about, like this data collection, global data collection beast, collecting all this information from us, God's creation. So essentially the whole earth is, everybody on the planet right now is building this image onto the beast right now. It's not the actual physical image that sits in the third temple, but I think they're building the, what's the word I'm looking for? The essentially this the mind of it. You see what I'm saying? They're building the mind, they're building the brain of it.
Yeah.
I don't know what you were trying to say.
Because the image of the beast, it appears to everyone that it comes to life, and then it makes people worship the devil and worship the Antichrist, and those that don't get beheaded. So it's that image that they create, and the first thing it does is it creates a system where it's like, if you don't worship Satan and you don't worship the false or the Antichrist, then it will basically have a mechanism in place that you're not going to be able to buy or sell. But that's that. Now that you mentioned, that feels like almost like what we're doing right now is we're creating, by dumping all our resources and information and creating these supercomputers that have so much energy, electricity built into them that you can't turn it off, that it's inevitable that revelation is going to take place. Like, you can just see it.
They're basically all the information. Trust me, somebody thought, there's a fallen angel that thought about this. So all this AI information that everybody's building, trying to build their own AIs and stuff like that, open or closed, doesn't matter. They're all dumping it into this big data ball. And then once this data ball is complete, they're going to take that ball and just essentially dump it into the image that the people are going to build. So they built the mind of this thing, but now when I believe the false prophet's going to say, hey, you guys built the mind, the infrastructure that needs to run this thing, but now we need you to build the actual thing. So they're going to build the actual thing, then take this big data ball that they built with all the AI stuff that we've been dumping into it, and dumping into that image that they built, and boom, you have the image that speaks.
For sure.
And it was all built by man. Once again, when have we seen that before in the Bible?
You know what amazes me though, and I think this speaks to the time that we're living in. You know what amazes me is that I think that both our nation, kind of your nation too, Shane. You're welcome here anytime. You know that, right? But our nation down here in the lower 48, as well as the world, we are in a state of like checkmate. If you really think about it, okay? Consider what's going on just for a moment with our nation. Let's talk about this big, beautiful bill for a minute. It's really not all that beautiful. It's very big, but it's really not all that beautiful. There's a lot of junk in there, a lot of garbage, a lot of federal regulations on AI that limits and takes away state rights, which is really unconstitutional. There's a lot of garbage in that bill. I'm telling you, stuff that you are not going to like. It's kind of like Obamacare when Nancy Pelosi said, "Oh, well, we have to pass it so we can find out what's in it." Matter of fact, a lot of the congressmen that already voted on this thing, that voted yes, I think it was Marjorie Taylor Greene, who's kind of a firebrand, she's kind of controversial, said, "Oh, I didn't know the AI stuff was in there, or I never would have voted for it." See, they're not even reading these things before they pass them. But the thing that's kind of got everybody, really just by the throat on this thing is the tax rates. Because if it doesn't get passed, all of our tax rates are going to go up in the United States, and it's going to smother us. Now, the logical thing would be to take this thing, break it down into its components, not make it so big so that you can keep the beautiful stuff and get rid of all the garbage, okay? But they don't have time to do that. They're not going to do that. So it's kind of I know people don't like me saying this because it's a curse word, but damn is a biblical word. You can be damned to hell. And this is where the saying comes from: damned if you do, damned if you don't. That's where we are at with this bill. If you pass it, it's going to add trillions to the deficit. It's probably going to collapse our bond market, and it's going to tank our economy, okay? The world is not going to trust the dollar anymore. If you don't pass it, it's going to raise taxes on every American. It's also going to tank the economy. So do you see how God really kind of has America right now in the vice grip squeeze? And we're at a checkmate. God has said, "I've played with you long enough, America. You guys didn't want to get serious with me. You thought you could elect a man to fix your problems and shirk your responsibility as the church. Just give it up and give it to a politician. You thought you could go that route. I'm done playing with you, America. You never really repented. You never really turned to me. So you know what? I did it to Israel. I'll do it to you too." That's where we are. Like it or not. Sorry. Whether you like Trump or not, that's where we are. God is done playing with America. We are about to get squeezed. We are at checkmate. Now look at the world. Open up your lens and let's go to the world. We're talking about AI. Well, if we say, well, we don't like AI and we don't like all this stuff, we don't want to develop the beast system, so we're just going to stop all of our AI work. We're going to regulate and say, Google, you can't mess with it. Meta, you can't mess with it. Elon Musk, Grok, all you guys, nope, you can't do it here. Well, guess what? China's going to do it. So China will have AI and China will rule the world instead of America. Now, how would you like that? Do you think Xi Jinping is going to be a great ruler for the world? Of course not. Checkmate. Guys, we are at checkmate. God has us. There are no more moves on the board. God has us right where he wants us, and that is he's going to break this earth. We're not going to be here. That's how you know the rapture soon. We're not going to be here. But God is going to break this earth. He's going to break the will of every strong man on this earth. Everyone who thinks they can figure this thing out, everyone who thinks they can rule the world, God's got those pieces in play on the chessboard right now to say, checkmate. I win. You lose.
Yeah. Two things. One, as what you're saying right there, I lost my thought. Okay, well, actually, just lost my train of thought. Well, I want to say about Trump. Okay, Trump and Elon. All right, maybe the thought will come back to me. We see a fight going on with them right now.
Yep.
All right. Why is that? Is that a real fight or not? Okay, is it
I don't know. Yeah.
Here's my thing. Okay, you have Elon, which we know. Elon. On one hand, you have Elon, where he wants to implement the mark of the beast. He wants universal income. Nobody's making money. Everybody gets paid the same, and everything's digitized, and there's no fiat money. And he wants everything like that. Essentially, he wants the mark of the beast. That's what Elon Musk wants. Neuralink, Starlink. Okay, I think that's what Elon Musk wants. He wants a total mark of the beast, track and trace, no money anywhere. Okay. Then you got Trump on the other hand that wants to fix this country. All right. And he wants to make a difference. He wants to make America great again, do everything else like that. So what's going to happen is Elon's like, hey, this whole thing about this money thing, we need to be careful with all of our money and be not be all the stuff I found with Doge and all this fraudulent stuff. I can't stand that stuff. We need to save some money. We need to stop all the fraudulent spending. Well, Trump was like, well, we need to make America great again. We need to make crypto great. America is number one in crypto. We need all this stuff. So this is what I think is happening. All right. Trump, and that's what I heard, they're going to print us into oblivion. We are entering the final stage where they're going to print about $60 trillion above and beyond where we're at right now. They're going to find that they're going to more than double what we have printed, printed in the last 100 years. Okay. So they're going to double, if not more than double, the amount of printed money that we have out there, which is going to destroy the dollar. And Trump knows that. Okay. But by doing that, you can buy a lot of stuff. You can build this dome. You can bring the economy back. You can make all kinds of great things happen. He could get this bill through, big, great, beautiful bill, which a lot of people are going to praise Trump for all the good stuff that's in it. But at the same time, what's going to happen? You're going to destroy the dollar. And you have $90 trillion in debt. That's the projection. It's not going to be an extra 10 trillion over the next 10 years. They're going for 90 to 100 trillion dollars in debt in this country. That's what they're going for.
Yeah.
Okay. If
Insane.
they do that, look, that's insane. You'll never pay that back. So how do we fix that? Well, Elon comes in. First of all, you got Trump like, oh no, I spent, if you could, Derek could do his impression. Oh, I spent $100 trillion, but look all the great stuff we have now. But man, this $100 trillion, it's kind of hard being on the back right now. What do we do about it, Elon? Elon's, well, why don't we just pretend it never happened? Just delete the dollar, delete the whole thing, and start completely new Jubilee digital currency. We have the military to back it up. Everybody has to listen to us anyways. If the whole world agrees that we should get rid of the dollar and pretend it never happened, if the whole world agrees to it, then you can do it, and then you can restart with a digital currency, cleans the whole slate. It cleans the whole slate. That's how they're going to pay off our debt. So that's what they're doing. They're going to print us into oblivion. It's going to be impossible to pay it back, where they're going to essentially tell everybody on the planet and every American, how's about we just pretend it never happened? That's the only way to pay it off. And they're going to delete it all. IRS will be gone. All this stuff will be gone. And digital currency. That's what Trump did with all the money spending. All right. And then Elon comes in and say, great, now I can have my time and bring in this digital currency and run this whole thing. So I think Trump and Elon, they're working together on the same team.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. That's
one's going to destroy the dollar,
when this whole feud broke out. When the whole feud broke out, I'm like, something is not right here. Something doesn't smell right. It almost seems scripted. I opened up the show talking about how, Elon drops the bomb that Trump was in the Epstein files, which I don't believe, because if he was, number one, Elon wouldn't, if he knew that, he wouldn't have backed him through the campaign. But number two, if that were true, Joe Biden would have opened that up while he was still in power and knocked Trump right out. So, to me, that's not it. But this is the question I posed earlier on. Shane was having some technical issues, so I don't know if he heard it, and it was right before you came on, Bob. So I'm curious, both of you guys' thoughts. Like with Elon, we have looked at various characters as Antichrist type characters, and of course, we know there's stuff there with Elon. We know there's stuff there with Trump, and we got our little jars up on the shelf with all of our pennies in them. What I wonder, though, with this latest rift with Trump is I can't help but say, I don't want to pin the tail on the donkey and say this has got to be the case, but it makes me wonder if we know that the Antichrist will take down three of the 10 kings. Could Trump be one of the 10? Could Elon be working on taking down one of those 10? Could he be? Is it possible that this whole thing is going to lead to Elon kind of having almost a not an overthrow, but like a soft coup? I mean, he was putting on there, listen, the stuff he's saying, a lot of people are thinking. He put out a tweet saying, is it time for a party other than Republicans or Democrats that represent the 80% of America in the middle? And that's the truth. People are sick of the Democrats and they're sick of the Republicans because the Democrats are crazy and the Republicans do nothing but lie to you. They make promises and they never keep them. They are as swampy as the Democrats. I know I'm a little jaded. Like I said, I used to be an ex-Tea Party member. That's back when I believed that politics could change things. And then we put people in there, Tea Party members that went to Congress and became just as crooked, just as corrupt as the swamp creatures that had already been there. And you see it over and over and over again. So, my question again, I'm not saying like, oh, Elon's got to be the Antichrist, but could he be? Could it be that he's going to win over the American people? And it's going to look like he's going to look like the hero. Yeah, I got rid of the Democrats, those loony leftists that are trying to trans all your kids. Yeah, I got rid of the Republicans, these swamp creatures that lie to you and never do anything, waste your tax money. He's going to come out smelling like a rose. And is it possible? I'm just throwing ideas out there, guys.
He's on the global stage an awful lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, he has a big voice. His voice is just as strong as the president. They said they don't like it when mom and dad fight. Okay, so everybody is looking at Elon Musk as co-president now.
Yep.
Even higher than Vance.
Do you remember when we did a show? I don't know if you guys were on at the time, but you probably remember this teeny tiny weeny little press conference where Elon was explaining how Doge works, and his son was looking at the president going, "You need to go away right now. You need to go." What was his quote? What did he say? He said, "You're not the president. You need to go away.
Yeah.
I want you to shut your mouth." And then he starts dropping some F-bombs in there. It was kind of weird. It was kind of weird because the more I listened to it, I'm like, this sounds like something that a kid would hear when he heard two parents fighting in the background. That this kid would say, because he was looking and Trump was ignoring him. And I'm like, man, this is so weird, especially I forget what his son's name is, Ash or X-11274, whatever. That's weird enough as it is. But to have this dark mega and all this crazy stuff going on at the White House, where you're right, Bob, he was there every single day. And it felt like, how did you get to be the vice president? What did you do? Nobody voted for you. And yet you're here looking under every company. All of a sudden you're looking under the hood to see where there's extra money and all this crazy stuff. It's weird. It was a weird play for Trump to let him in.
Plus, the other point I want to make too was all the Doge cuts for Congress. Everybody's complaining about, they won't do the Doge cuts. They won't do the Doge cuts because the Doge cuts will make such a big difference. The Doge cuts make up about $1.3 trillion. And I just told you that they want to add about 65 trillion onto our debt. So yeah, it's not going to make a difference at all.
No.
Okay, it's a moot point. All right. So they're going to get their money, and we know what Jesus told us. They have their reward. Okay, they have this life. This is the closest to heaven they're ever going to get. All right, so they're going to do it whether we like it or not. This big beautiful bill is going to destroy everything. So there is no golden age coming. We just got a tribulation that's coming. That's all we have. All right. So sorry, all the Trumpers out there, but ain't going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I just replied to somebody in the comments, who said, like, how could I defend, the number one client of the, the island, the Epstein Island, I think referring to Trump. And I make no defense for the guy. Again, I'm probably a harsher critic of him than most people are. I stand by what I said, that we are better off under him than we would have been under a Kamala presidency. But again, as far as all this Epstein Island stuff, as far as Trump's concerned, I don't know. I really don't. I have no inside information. Maybe he is on that list, but there's a principle called Occam's razor. If you're not familiar with Occam's razor, it just means that the simplest explanation must be the truth because it's the simplest, And so for me, the simplest explanation is if he were on that list, then we would have Kamala as president. Biden would have used it to wipe his butt. He would have mopped the floor with Trump. Whatever, even after Trump got shot, whatever momentum he was gaining, all they had to do was drop what's called the October surprise. Everybody in American politics knows the October surprise. October surprise, yep, Trump's on the Epstein list, and boom, that would have been the end. Even the fiercest MAGA supporters, if they knew that Trump was on the Epstein Island list, even the fiercest MAGA supporters, it would have depressed them, and they wouldn't have went out to the polls. They were like, I can't stand for this. MAGA people are against pedophilia. MAGA people are against child abuse. They couldn't have stood for that.
Have you ever heard of Black Swan's razor? Have you ever heard of that?
I'd never seen Black Swan's razor, obviously, because otherwise But
Well, it's a term I just coined just right now. Okay. Black Swan's razor. You heard it here. The idea is a black swan is unpredictable, highly improbable, unpredictable. You can't predict it. If you
Mhm.
predict it, it's not a black swan. But there's a razor's edge between that and surprise. So would I be surprised if Donald Trump was on that Epstein list? Probably not. It probably wouldn't shock me. So I don't know if he's on the list or not. Would it shock me, with this G7 summit that something bad happened? Not really, because we've been talking about it. We're guessing. But a black swan totally lives in the unexpected. It lies in the dormant, where you can't predict it. You can't even see around the corner to predict it. That's the difficult thing about a black swan event. You can be surprised, like, oh man, that didn't happen, or I can't believe that happened, or whatever. It's so close. Like the razor is so close to being surprised and not being surprised, right? Like if something bad happens, let's say Russia decided to launch a nuke in Ukraine, we would be surprised, but we kind of wouldn't because we've been talking about it for so long. You know what I mean? So
Yep.
to me, a black swan event has to, not just to me, but the criteria is it has to take the whole world off guard. And the leading candidate right now for me is a Rapture,
Mhm.
because so many people are saying it can't happen.
Right.
Even Christians
Right.
that are like, I'm a post-tribber, and they're like, it can't happen. Well, prove it. Prove that it cannot happen. Well, it's
Right.
never happened before. Well,
Yeah.
that happened with the flood. They couldn't
Yeah.
prove the flood would happen because it never
Exactly.
happened before. You can't use data to prove something exists.
Right.
You can't do that. You can't say, oh, I have enough data to say that this can't happen because it never happened before. You can't
right.
use that reasoning.
That's
You
right.
can't use that. That goes out the window. So a black swan lives in the area where it's unprovable history.
Yeah. It's kind
Because
of
it
like
never happened before.
it's kind of like people who say, there are those that'll say, well, the rapture's got to happen on this date. Like, let's pick today. People have been looking at today, saying, oh, it's got to happen today. But then there's other people out there saying, no, the rapture can't happen on this day. You can't
You're
say
doing
that the
the same,
rapture.
yeah.
Right.
You're
You
doing the
can't.
same
Yes,
same thing by
exactly.
saying it can't.
Exactly. You can't prove that it won't happen today. Exactly.
That's
Black Swan
Swan's
razor.
razor right
There
there.
you go. Black Swan
The
razor.
very
right there.
fact that you say it can't
Exactly.
contradicts the person that said it can. You're right.
Exactly.
You're right here. And
Exactly.
99% of us are going to be wrong all the time until the rapture happens.
Exactly.
And we won't be able to say, oh, we were right. You guys are wrong. That's not fair. We can't do it. We'll never be able to say that because we'll be in heaven and it'll be like, yeah, well, hey, who cares?
What were the stipulations you mentioned before when we always talk about the black swan? The stipulation for a black swan, first of all, you can't see it coming. One, two, it has to change the whole world overnight.
Yes. And then the third thing is you can explain it in time. You can go back and go, oh, we should have saw it coming. That is the key indicator that it was a black swan event. Think 9/11. Nobody, I don't care who they are. Nobody saw that coming. If you did, you're lying, you're pretending, you're making up stuff based on the data that you have since 9/11. Nobody saw it except arguably, what's his name? Jones, the Jones guy. What's his name? Alex Jones? Because there's record of him talking about it before. It's different than planes crashing. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about actually buildings collapsing because of a plane hitting it, because of a terrorist attacking it, attacking the U.S. on purpose. Nobody saw that coming. There could have been chatter. You could argue the terrorists knew that they're doing it. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about it catches the whole world off guard, and we didn't know what was happening. We thought 9/11 was going to be 9/12, 9/13, 9/14. Why? Everyone was saying it was going to happen the next day. We just forget now that we were on high alert. All your planes came to Canada and landed because they were scared that all the other planes were going to smash all the buildings every day forward. That's why they put doors with locks on it. That's why they put U.S.
Yep.
Marshals, because they thought 9/11 was going to happen every single day.
Yep.
But another criteria of the Black Swan is it doesn't happen again.
Right. Yep.
The same way. It can't do that. You can't do Pearl Harbor again.
Right.
Right.
Only works once.
You can't
That's
do
right.
it. Yeah, it only does it once. But in hindsight, you go, oh, we should have saw it coming.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
guarantee 9/11, we should have saw it coming. We should have been talking about bolting doors. We should have talked about screening people maybe just a little bit more. Hey, where are you from? Hey, oh, I noticed you took flight school, but you didn't finish the landing portion.
Right.
You only practiced the taking off.
Right.
That's a flag for me.
Right. Right.
Mhm.
I'll figure that out when I get there. Yeah, no problem. No problem.
When I get there.
I remember the first time that I flew solo. Let me tell you, the first time I ever did a solo flight, I went and, I was coming in for a landing, and the airport that I learned at was very difficult, by the way. It was down in a valley. Like, the whole thing was shaped like a big bowl. So you had to make very unusual. You couldn't make a nice long approach. You had to kind of do what they call chop and drop. You had to pull your throttle and just dump in really quick. It was a very hard airport to land at. And I remember the first time that I did this, by myself, and I'm coming in, and I didn't like it. I'm like, this doesn't look good. I'm going around. And so I hit my throttle and I took off. I went around the airport. You just do a go around and set up again. And then all of a sudden, the thought was in my mind, like, I can't do this all day. I'm going to run out of gas sooner or later. I need to put this thing down. Of course, I had plenty of gas. I could have tried many more times, but that thought went through my head. Like, what if I can't get this thing right? What if the setup is right? I'm going to run out of gas. I got to put it down sooner or later. And of course, the second landing was much better and no issues. But
I used to play flight simulation games after 9/11. I can't tell you how many times I ran into buildings on purpose. I was just trying to see what it would look like and all this stuff, and I couldn't help it. I was like, I'm going to smash into these buildings. I'm going to go to New York and all. Like, what kind of a crazy person does that? And simulators. Well, it's because it's simulation. It's not real. So you do that. You crash into buildings. You go under bridges. You take risks that you would never do in a flight simulation. And so I think if I was a coach and I saw somebody from another country going, it's kind of weird. You're crashing into these buildings. You don't want to land this plane. How come? What are you doing? Why are you always going to New York? Why is that? We're telling you to land in Chicago and you're going to New York. And then he wraps up and goes home. It's like, dude, you didn't finish the lesson. I think that's a little bit of a flag, perhaps. I don't know. It's kind of crazy.
I definitely think the Rapture Resurrection is the next Black Swan. It meets the criteria, like you said. People won't see it coming. Changes the world overnight. And what was the other criteria?
You can explain it away.
You can explain it away. So the Rapture Resurrection. First of all, nuclear war. Look, you got Ukraine looking over their shoulder, and everybody. It's all over the news. Nuclear warning. It's everywhere. The nuclear war, whenever it happens, basically most of the world is going to be like, yeah, we saw that coming. It's about time you guys finally dropped one. We got tired of waiting. The show's getting old. Okay. Finally, someone grew a pair. That's pretty much the conversation going to be. All right. So nuclear war will not be, or nuclear attack will definitely not be a Black Swan. And everything that comes after that is not going to be a Black Swan.
Right.
You're not going to see it's just, okay, wartime. Oh, someone dropped a missile over here. Yeah, we're at war. Why are you surprised with that? There was a bio attack over Chicago. We're at war. Why are you surprised? Okay, stay inside. All right. It's martial law. That's why this stuff's happening. But the Rapture, though, nobody sees that coming. And it's just like how you explained Pearl Harbor. Yep. You had the guys flying the planes that knew about it.
Yep.
All right. And they're generals. All right.
Yep.
And maybe a few corrupt politicians here.
Yep.
But outside of that, there's nobody else that knew about it. Now, we who are the body of Christ, you know how many watchmen are in the body of Christ are watching right now? Yeah. Maybe about 2%.
Yeah,
1 to 2%.
Small percentage.
Tiny. All right.
Yeah.
And God did not call us all to be watchmen.
Yep.
All right. But majority of the body of Christ are not watchmen. It's only look. You have a watchtower, or like for example, like my body, how many cells of my body could fit inside my eyes. All right.
Yeah.
It's like there's only so much room up here in the eyes, all right, to be able to turn around and watch everywhere. How many people could fit at the top of a watchtower? All right.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
you see what I'm saying? The parallels I'm making here.
No, it's
So
true.
Very tiny percentage.
Not for everyone.
No, and it's funny because even if you just examine YouTube just a little bit, because I'm the new guy here, I'm the new kid on the block, and I noticed this when I came over to YouTube. I just kind of checked this out, and Bob, you've been here longer than anybody. I'm sure you can prove this out to be true. If no matter what channel you go to, however many subscribers, like you've got a ton of subscribers, Uptime has a lot, Aaron has a lot. No matter what channel you go to, when they put out a video, there's almost like a ceiling, like a cap to how many views it's going to get.
It's
like,
weird.
it maxes out like just under 10,000. I don't care how many subscribers you get.
Yep,
if
all
you
the time.
get 9,000 views on a video, you've done very well in the Watchmen community. And that's it. I don't care how long you've been on YouTube, how many subscribers you got, how big you've grown. You kind of, and the reason why is because, again, like you said, Bob, there's just not that many Watchmen. There's plenty of people that say,
and the interest isn't necessarily there to watch people talk about the world ending every single day or the rapture or whatever. It loses its sex appeal, if you will, after a while, and people get tired and fatigued. Like I did a video 3 years ago or two and a half years ago on Klaus Schwab. And I was like, hey, this verse describes him perfectly. I got 55,000 views. I tried making a video about him again the next day, the next week. I got maybe 1,000, maybe 10,000. And then it was getting less and less. And I was getting squashed more and more and more. If I could somehow cloak my channel and then put a video out, I bet you we probably get 10,000, 20,000 views.
Yep.
It's weird.
Yep.
So
It is,
you're telling me that I had under 900 subscribers and I got 55,000 views from a video, and I am 3 years later and I'm almost at 10,000 subscribers, over 1 million views, and I get less people, less views. You're telling me that's how it works when some other celebrity can make a channel on reviewing Maverick or Top Gun or whatever, and they're at 100,000 views and hundreds of thousands of subscribers the next day? Plants.
Exactly.
That's all I could say to that.
Exactly.
It's weird.
But you know what? We're here for however many, whatever limited number of people are here, we're here for that. I mean, that's why I'm here. I don't, I didn't come over to YouTube like, oh, I'm going to be some kind of big influencer. No, I'm just here because the Lord's called me to be here, called me to continue to encourage the body, to try to, show other people what's worked in my life. I become a disciple, and, this is why we talk a lot about the Rapture roller coaster. I used to ride that thing. I'm like, how am I going to cope with life if the Rapture doesn't come? And I have learned over the past few years how to live just a very victorious life where I look forward to the Rapture, but honestly, I don't care when it comes. When it comes, it comes. It's, I'm going to enjoy my life living for the Lord and be in a state of blessedness until that day comes. And that's all I'm doing here on YouTube is like, hey, here's how I got there. You could get there too. If you're like looking at this, like, how am I going to make it through tomorrow? And believe me, you will, you can, and you will, but it takes you submitting to the Holy Spirit, allowing Jesus to truly live in you, and just, encourage you daily and be your strength daily. When you don't think you have the strength and you don't know where you're going to pull it from, just give up and let him do it through you, So, that's why I spend so much time over here myself. I'm just trying to bless the remnant. You guys out there listening, you are the remnant. Believe it or not, you're the remnant. There's a lot in the church, and I'm not sitting here trying to tell you that everybody that goes to a denominational Sunday church that could care less, that doesn't want, I'm not saying, oh, they're not going to go in the rapture. They'll come too. But you guys are the remnant. You are like the elite forces that are still actively watching and waiting. And you'll get a special crown. Believe me, when the Lord comes, you're going to get a special crown. And everybody else that filled a church pew on Sunday morning that could care less, they're going to envy you at some point. They're going to look at you and wish that they had watched like you are watching right now.
Right.
Yeah. No,
quick measurement. Look at Jesus. Look what happened to Jesus. Peter, James, and John. Okay. 12 apostles, but you had Peter, James, and John. Then you had the 70 went out. 120 in the upper room, 500 that witnessed his ascension in heaven. See all those big numbers?
Mm-hmm.
But only Peter, James, and John, a tiny percentage, saw his transfiguration on the mount.
Yep.
Okay. That were privy to something like that. Okay.
Yep.
So that even plays that out right there too. So that's a tiny percentage of us looking for this rapture, and the black swan is a tiny percentage. It's so small that nobody knew about it, but there were a few people that knew about it. That's us. All right. And it's going to come in, and it definitely is going to be explained away, because after it takes place, everybody could go back and watch all these videos that we did after we're gone. So yeah, we should have saw that thing coming. And it'll change the world overnight, right? So it meets the criteria right there.
Yeah, I like it. You know what? To me, I think that was a great way to end the show. I think that's a great way just to kind of let it simmer, let it settle. The idea that the next Black Swan event, to all of us, I believe, could very well be the rapture, because it'll take the world off guard. It fits the criteria. And if you guys don't mind just sticking around in the back, I'll just say goodbye to everyone.
You got it. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Awesome.
Take care.
All right. So thank you guys for watching the show, Rev Talk. This is the second episode. Appreciate you guys. We have a show coming up on Thursday with another guest. We're going to be talking about, are we in Satan's little season? I have a guest on here that interviewed a gentleman that was all in on Satan's little season. So what we're going to do is we're going to be talking about it, how this could shipwreck people's faith. This theory that's going around there, even though there might be some interesting bits of information, it could take people out of their faith. So we're going to be talking about it. We're going to be presenting it from different angles. We're going to use scripture. We're going to do a deep dive, because again, there's only like one verse, maybe two verses that talk about Satan's little season. And yet there are some people that are building huge doctrines around this. So we're going to be talking about it on Thursday. I don't think you want to miss this show coming up. I think it's going to be a hot one, a hot topic, because it's going around. It's collecting like gangrene, gangbusters, and we're going to talk about it on Thursday. So join us. It's going to be a great show. And without any further ado, appreciate you guys hanging around, sticking around for the last, couple of hours. My goodness, we have been on the show for 2 hours. So thank you guys. We'll see you guys on the next episode. Bye for now.
Black Swan Revelations here on YouTube brought you today's mind-bending journey. Dive into the discussion, your comments, questions, prayer requests, and powerful testimonies of Jesus' love are what fueled this community. Did today's episode hit home? Smash that like button. New here? Subscribe and ring the notification bell so you never miss a live stream or a video upload. Thanks for being part of today's adventure. Catch you in the next video, or maybe even in the clouds. Stay curious, stay blessed.